Yip is evolving. Do I want to stop this? Nah. Welcome back to Extra Holiday Games. I'm Extra Holiday, and the Psyduck has been staring at me for like 2 days. It's a little uncomfortable. Now there's a weasel too. Another Psyduck coming over. All right, guys, I gotta go. I got stuff to do. Like fight this trainer. Hey there. Hey, I don't remember. From Scout's report, what you have. All right, you wanted to hitchhike. Yeah. Fungus. Oh yeah, that's good for us. That's a poison type. Psychic beats poison. Oh, but it has a move that's super effective. Well, we're kind of about leveling it now. I did have one other thought. A potential rule I could add. Under a condition. The condition is that if we do battle the Earth Titan immediately after the Open Sky Titan, then I think if I were to manage that and I were to beat it without any casualties, I think that would probably prove to me that this run's a little too easy and maybe I should add another rule or two. In which case, the rule I would add is that Troopa can't auto-battle. Alright. Because auto-battling, as far as a Nuzlocke type of challenge is concerned, auto-battling is basically risk-free. Like, yeah, maybe you forget that your Pokemon is low health from auto-battling going into another battle, but that's unlikely. Your Pokemon can't actually faint from auto-battling, as far as I know. Oh god, I don't want to fight you. You don't want to fight me, so. So yeah, that's probably the first, if I were to add a rule, that would probably be the first rule I would add. And more likely than not, if I somehow manage to beat the Earth Titan without any casualties, then that would be a rule I would add. However, I will say, I feel doing something like that, I think, is kind of counterproductive to the idea of a challenge run like this, with, you know, effectively a permadeath challenge. That's the term I'm going to use for a more generic term for a Nuzlocke type challenge. Because the original idea, from, you know, all accounts that I've heard, the original idea for the Nuzlocke was that the Nuzlocke was supposed to make your Pokemon more precious to you, right? Because you only get to catch so many, and you name each one, and, you know, once they're dead, they're gone. You can't use them anymore. You know, it was supposed to add value to the Pokemon's quote-unquote lives. And doing something like, oh, if I don't lose anyone, then I'm gonna add rules to make things harder, so it's more likely for me to lose someone. That kind of, the game essence there kind of goes in the opposite direction. Basically, you're incentivizing yourself to lose Pokemon at that point, which is not, yeah, it to put it another way, basically the most effective move at that point would be, oh, let me just sack a Pokemon I don't care about to make it so I don't have to deal with that rule later. So there's a good chance that I'll probably do it either way. If I do go for the Earth Titan directly after the Sky Titan. It's weird. It's weird because do I have to do that? No. But if I don't, we come to this weird desync point where Scout and Troopa are kind of have, if not different objectives, then different access to things, which is, I guess it still makes some sense to have Scout be able to access more. I mean, the only way it would really break things is if it were the opposite way. If for some reason Troopa was able to get around better than Scout was, had more mobility, and thus could get places that Scout couldn't. Because then, you know, you'd be risking potentially running into things that you have no information about. You being me, the person playing. So I just realized I have 2 Quick Claws. Interesting. So yeah, I'm that's just been what's been on my mind lately. I will say the idea of adding rules to a challenge, you know, midway through is not a new one to me, because I'm gonna guess. I mean, if you did watch this, then props to you. But I'm gonna guess that nobody watching this video right now watched any of the ramp lock I did for Shining Pearl, I believe it was. Or was it Brilliant Diamond? I don't remember. One of the two. I don't remember which I picked. It's been a while since I played it. But yeah, I started a Nuzlocke that I was calling a ramp lock. I started a Nuzlocke where each gym that I beat without losing a Pokemon, I added a rule. But yeah, that's like I said, that kind of, I didn't think about it till after I had already started the challenge, but yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because, you know, at some point the optimal strategy, like I said, becomes, all right, let me just get rid of this Pokemon that I don't care about. When in truth, the idea is that you're supposed to care about each and every one. And I'll tell you what kind of sparked this little epiphany. It was, I watch a lot of, I've already mentioned it before. I watch a lot of Alpha Rad, especially since he's been doing more and more Pokemon content. But yeah, one of his Nuzlocks that he did, and he did a summarized video on. Effectively, kind of the thesis of the video was that optimal play in a Nuzlocke doesn't always incentivize not losing Pokemon. Right? Because there's a common strategy in a Nuzlocke, particularly among higher level Nuzlockers, where if you know you don't need a Pokemon later in the game, then you don't necessarily need to worry. You're less incentivized. I keep using that word. It's less beneficial for you to swap that Pokemon out to save their life, for instance, right? 'Cause there are some scenarios where you kind of have to pick, well, okay, if I swap out trying to save this Pokemon, then there's a chance that I could just lose my entire team instead. And it's an interesting thing, right? But the unfortunate thing about that is, yeah, it gets to a point where if you've done enough Nuzlockes that you kind of just do it without thinking about it. And that was kind of the whole point of the video, is that if you kind of ignore the spirit of the Nuzlocke and that, trying to treat every Pokemon as precious to you and all that, then it becomes a lot easier because you're more willing to make those moves that, like, okay, this Pokemon is going to die. I don't really care about that because that's just what's necessary to win. So, yeah, and I've been thinking, since I watched that video, I've been thinking about, what would be the best way to change the Nuzlocke rules to do the opposite, to make it so you are more incentivized to keep your Pokemon alive. And I think part of the answer is actually something I'm doing in this Scout Law, at least theoretically, and that's reducing the number of Pokemon you actually get in the challenge run. Because as far as a normal Pokemon game goes, there's usually about probably 2 dozen, maybe 3 dozen Pokemon that you get over the course of a normal Nuzlocke in most Pokemon games, just based on the number of routes that are in the area, in the region. So if you cut down the number, then inherently that makes each Pokemon more valuable because, well, you're not getting another Pokemon like that. I think we're faster. Yeah, okay. Good. By the way, the reason I went with Witch here is because, unlike Witch, this Ditto does not have an Eviolite, which means it's actually going to be significantly weaker than Witch is here. Life Dew, that's annoying though. I didn't think about that, that it has a healing move. Because, Witch also has it. It's fine. The thing about Transform is that when it transforms, it only gets 5 PP of each move, so we also outclass it in the number of PP we have. Oh, speed tie? Okay. Alright, it does gain your stats. Except, again, it doesn't have Eviolite, so its defenses are actually lower than ours. Ooh, nice crit. Play nice, does nothing here, because it only lowers attack. Yeah, so reducing the number of Pokemon you get is one possible way to counteract the heartless Nuzlocke, as you might call it. And I've been theorizing other ways too, like, for example, basically doing like a reverse ramp lock, where if you basically, for each gym that you don't lose a Pokemon, you get rid of a rule rather than adding a rule. That makes things a little bit more snowbally, sure, but like if you get to like the 5th gym without ever having lost anyone, then you're probably fine. But I think the option there is to make the start of the game very difficult. But even then, that's not necessarily a great solution. So yeah, I still feel like I need to do a little more thinking on how to solve that problem. But maybe we can solve that problem next time. Because as for this episode, that's a wrap. The area up ahead is dangerous. That's why we're not going there.